Hey guys, it's Derek, and I've owned this car now for 2 years, so I think I'm in a pretty good position to let you know what I think of the Tesla Model 3 and whether it's a deal or it's a no deal. I'm not going to go into all the good things about this car because we all know what it is. It's an electric vehicle. It goes like the wind, so there's pretty much 0.1% of any car on this planet that I can't take at a traffic light. So it's super fast, it drives super smooth, and it's super fun to drive actually. But in this video, I want to go through some of the reasons why you might want to think twice about getting this car, some of which I believe might be deal breakers, some of them are just minor inconveniences, so let's get on with it. So in terms of the build quality, I think this is a pretty decent, this car is not cheap, and in terms of build quality for a car of this price, I think it's reasonable. The interior looks really nice. The exterior looks really cool as well, except that you just got to remember, because they're trying to reduce the weight and things like this in the car, it feels a little bit flimsy. Like, I know it's made of like some sort of metal. I mean, I'm not a car expert, but it's not made of plastic or anything. It feels like that this car will dent very easily, so it's not the type of car that you want to be leaning against a lot. You don't want to be bumping into stuff because you're going to definitely get this dent in the car, but it looks super nice. The external appearance is really nice. The wheels look really nice. The headlights look really nice. One thing just to be careful of, and this is where I'm going to start going on a little bit of a story about what I wouldn't like about this car. The number one thing is it's got a very, very low profile in terms of the fact that there are a lot of driveways, there are a lot of curbs, there are a lot of speed humps where if you go through any of them with any sort of speed whatsoever, your car's going to scrape on the bottom. And I know that happens with all the cool sports cars and stuff like that. If you're driving a Lambo, you're going to run into problems like that. But with a car like this, where it's kind of almost like a family car in a way, I don't like the fact that it has trouble negotiating steep driveways, because I'm always worried about scraping the bottom of the car, and you know what's at the bottom of the car, and that is the battery. So that's one thing I don't like. Number two that I don't like, and I've had an experience about that just recently, is the fact that it's not unique to Tesla, but the fact that there is no spare wheel in this car. And that is a problem, because one time I have a spare tire, and before you ask, these tires are not run flats. What you need to do is you actually need to call Tesla, and they need to send a tow truck. And there's one of two options, and the one that I had, and I think that's the general experience, is that when you have a flat tire, they change your wheel, they take your wheel to Tesla, so you have a lone wheel. And at some point, you have to bring it back to Tesla and get your wheel swapped back over once your actual wheel is fixed. That all sounds simple in theory. It really depends on how close you are to the Tesla service center. That's not going to work well if you're on holiday, for example. And if you're driving in the middle of nowhere, that's going to suck really bad. And the second thing is, once they've worked out whether you need a new tire or whether you need to have your tire repaired, as soon as they know, you only have like 3 business days, I think, with a 3 or 5. It's either 3 or 5 to actually go there. Otherwise, they start charging you some sort of fee, which sounds ludicrous because not all of us have the ability to go there during the weekdays, and we have to try and organize time off to get it. So that's one thing that's really bad, and I really wish that there was some type of spare tire, but I'm gathering that there are a lot of cars out there, not just Teslas, that don't have a spare wheel, and that is really annoying to me. And whilst I'm on the topic of annoyance, when it comes to charging an electric car, look, 99.9% of the time I'm cool. Especially if you're just driving around the city and you don't live in a place where you don't have access to not free charging but home charging. I think that's where the issues may arise. So basically, I kind of top up my car every night. I get it backed up to 90%. You're not meant to charge this car up to 100, so I charge it to 90% every night, and I don't have an issue. However, if you live somewhere where you don't have easy access to a charger, for example, an apartment, and you have to rely on the supercharger network, one is it's not so cheap, 2 is the supercharger network is sometimes congested, and 3, it's just painful. Like, the fact that this is not like a petrol car where you just go to the gas station, it takes you 5 minutes, you fill up, you're done. If you need to charge your car, it's a minimum of 20 minutes in a fast supercharger, and if you don't have that time, if there's a queue, I don't have a dedicated charger in this house, and basically all I do is I run the mains down to where the car is, like via an extension, and I charge it. And for my purpose, that's fine, because I reckon overnight you probably can get maybe 25% charge. So if you're at 10% and you need it to be 90, you're not going to be able to charge this car overnight at home without a fast charger. So bear that in mind. We chose not to get a fast charger at this point because one is we don't have the infrastructure right now, and two is if you ever decide that Tesla's not your car, I don't believe that these fast chargers are compatible with any other electric vehicle if you happen to end up buying a different make of electric vehicle. So that's going to be wasted. So we've decided just to go with a slow power point charging, and it works fine for me, but may not work fine for you. And if you live in an apartment where you don't have access to charging, this could be an issue. Driving around the town, I think in general, it's going to be okay. But if you do a lot of inter-city travel, like if you go into regional areas, that could be a problem. Especially during school holidays, there could be a significant wait for a charger halfway on your trip, and that would be a nuisance. Because if you can imagine, you have 5 cars waiting at a petrol station, you're going to wait 20 minutes at most to get to you? If you have 5 cars in front of you at a supercharger and there's only one available, 20 minutes each minimum, if assuming people don't hog it, that's an hour and a half you're waiting just to get your car in the position where you can start charging it. So if that's not your cup of tea, that's something else to think about. The next thing I want to talk about is this thing here, the roof. I'm not a big fan of the panoramic glass roof. It looks super nice, but I don't want to get my head burned, especially in the summer. It's freaking hot here in Sydney. So I've got this roof cover thing on, and pretty much this turns this car into a car with no panoramic glass roof, and that suits me fine. I kind of wish that there was an option that you can just get a car without the glass roof, but this will make do. It works perfectly fine, and it keeps the car reasonably cool because the sun can't come streaming in, and you don't want to be at risk. Like if you're driving this car in the sun all the time and you're going to have UV rays shining on your head the whole time, it's like driving a convertible. What are the chances you might get something like a skin cancer or anything like that? So I don't like it. So that's one thing. This screen here, and it's like having a huge iPad at your leisure, and it lets you do everything you need to do with this car, and something that I really enjoy doing. And Tesla's really good. Like I don't think I've gone more than a month without a software update. I had one time when I had a glitch and the car would not look for a software update, and I couldn't figure it out, but ultimately just sorted itself out. I really love the screen. I love the fact that you can do everything you can for this car on this screen. I've taken the decision to put a screen protector on it because you're touching it so much. It's basically I screen protect everything. I screen protect my iPad and my iPhone. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be screen protecting like this Tesla screen as well. Some things to be aware of. Elon has made the decision, whether it's smart or not, he's made the decision that he wants to keep everything inside the Tesla ecosystem. So what that means is Apple CarPlay, Android CarPlay is not available on the Tesla. So if you're used to using Apple CarPlay to control everything, ain't going to work here. And that kind of is a bit of a nuisance to me. Yes, you can make do with all the Tesla stuff, but the one thing I miss is that you cannot use Waze in this Tesla. Now, there are websites that say you can, and you can just use the browser, but there's a problem. Browsers don't work when the car's in motion. So you can pull up Waze on your browser and it's fine when you're stationary, but as soon as you put the car into drive, the browser disappears. So you can't use Waze. You can. Let me go back. You can, but what you need to do is you need to find somewhere on the screen to mount your phone. Then you can use Waze through your phone, but you cannot use it through the browser, which kind of sucks. And the new thing which I've discovered, which also sucks, is that when you go for the premium connectivity, up to this point, Tesla gave you a Spotify account, but look at this. It now says on here, to keep listening, you update your Spotify account in 51 days. So basically what that means is for the $9.99 premium connectivity, you no longer get access to Spotify. So if you have your own account, that's fine, but otherwise you're going to have to think of some other way to listen to music, and that's kind of a bit of a disappointment, considering that you're paying $10. I don't really know what else the $10 is being spent on. You obviously need that for the traffic stuff. But having said that, the road navigation thing is pretty rudimentary on this thing. It's like Waze, you can actually see where the latest accidents are. You can actually see where the speed and red light cameras are. None of this stuff is available on Tesla. Yes, they now have the speed camera thing, but it's crap. It's actually crap. And it doesn't allow any user input, so that you can't say you saw an accident, you saw a mobile speed camera, so you're going to punch it in. That doesn't happen on Tesla. So that's something that for a car this expensive with this much tech, you'd think that it's something that they would put in. And whilst I'm on the subject of phones, Tesla provides you with a dual charging, MagSafe, whatever Qi charging port, and it sucks. The reason it sucks is if you've got an iPhone, which I have, any decently thick case, it will not charge, or it will not charge consistently, and it will overheat the phone in about half an hour. So that's crap. The workaround is, I find, I'm going to show you. So if you put the phone in here, it won't go. There'll be no charge, nothing's happening. If you stick it upside down with a bit of fiddling, it starts charging. Now, that's obviously got to do with the position of the magnets and the strength of magnets and all that kind of stuff. But again, for a card this expensive, the fact that you can't even get the bloody MagSafe charging Qi charger thing to work with a case on, it's kind of crap. Yes, there are USB-C ports inside the little compartment, this thing here, and you can stick cables out and stuff. And that's what you're going to have to do if you end up mounting your iPhone on the iPad screen if you want to use Waze. But you've got wireless charging. Why don't you make it work properly? Other little subtle things, I don't know. I haven't actually set it up, so maybe I'm wrong. But at this point, I have another car at home, and I know dozens of cars where you can open the boot, the trunk thing in the back, without having to press any buttons. And I think you can create a shortcut on your Tesla app on your phone that does that, but I haven't managed to do that yet. Basically, right now, you have to press a button. Yes, it's more convenient than having to use the key or anything like that, but having to press a button means if you've got a handful of shopping, you have to put the shopping down to open the boot. There are definitely cars that I know of where you can just wave your foot or kick your foot underneath the back of the car and the thing automatically opens and automatically shuts if you do the same thing. Kind of wish Tesla could do that, but it doesn't. The one thing that really super annoys me is the frunk, which is the thing at the front, which increases the storage of this car. Did I mention that storage in this car, considering what it is, it's actually not bad. And the frunk is super useful. But the thing is, you can only remotely open the frunk. You cannot close it. The only way you can close the frunk is to do it manually, which sounds super dumb. And I don't know whether that is a construction issue or some sort of weird technical issue, but I cannot see why you can't use a remote feature to close the frunk. I just don't understand it, and if Elon or someone Tesla can explain that to me, I would be really appreciative, because that it would be a super useful function. What else I've got to say to this car? You don't need to serve this car on regular intervals, which is good and bad. It's good in that you don't have to keep going to the service place. It's bad that no one's actually going to keep an eye on how the car is functioning, but because there are so fewer moving parts, that shouldn't be a problem. You don't have oil and stuff to change. So I guess that's good. Air conditioning. The air conditioning in this car I find to be not as powerful as it could be. The latest update where it allows you to turn on and off the rear vents, I find that's really good. But the fact that the air conditioning isn't that powerful, and we live in Australia and summers get super hot, I find that a little bit frustrating. That's why I can't have the roof, because it takes ages to cool this car down. And I just think that stronger air conditioning would be a bonus, but I don't know whether it's because this car, this car is designed for people who drive in America where it's super hot in the desert. And I don't know why the air conditioning cannot be stronger than this. But anyhow, that's another thing. The iPhone or the Android app, I don't have Android, I have iPhone. The app is good most of the time. Occasionally it fails. That's why I always, unfortunately, have to have the key card with me, because I don't want to have the experience where you're out and get locked out of the car. So it just actually means that you have to bring the card with you. And there was just one occasion where I nearly had a trouble without the card, so I've always had to bring it. But that's just an extra thing to remember to bring. I know it's tech, so I know that sometimes tech fails, but that can be a little bit of a nuisance. And if you're going to somewhere quickly and all you're going to do is bring your phone, because these days most people don't need wallets because our license is on our phone, we've got cards on our phone, so I often don't bring my wallet. And I have to bring the card now just in case of this potential event. So I wish I didn't have to, but I guess there's no choice about that. It sounds like that I have nothing but complaints about this car, but that's far from the truth. This video is concentrated on all the stuff that I want to tell you that may deter you from wanting to get the car, rather than telling you everything's so cool about this car. Tesla, I know that they've had a bit of a head start on the other car companies in terms of EVs, but their technology in terms of navigation, autopilot and stuff is still second to none. I don't have full self-driving because I just don't think that I can have a car that drives by itself, because I think I'd just freak out. But the enhanced autopilot, which by the way is another 10 grand, I find it useful. I don't know that it's worth the money, but I do find it useful because you can change lanes and things like that without having to turn off your autopilot. It is a luxury, but this is kind of a luxury car. a lot of people complaining these days because the price of this car has dropped significantly in value. And it's like saying anything's like, once you buy it, you can't complain about the price. Yes, the resale value secondhand might go down, but you didn't buy the car for that. And you can't sit here complaining that you bought something and the next day it's on sale, because that's the reality of life. You just got to sit here and enjoy the car. I just find that for a car that is $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, that some of these features that I've mentioned that are lacking, especially Apple CarPlay, the ability to close to front remotely, a spare wheel, all that kind of stuff, I just kind of wish that they thought of ways around that to make those things included, because they're pretty bulk standard things that I think everyone would expect, and I think that some people would be shocked that aren't on this car. So 2 years later, I've gone about 45,000 Ks, and there's been a lot of people who are concerned about, is there going to be battery degradation like you get on a phone? The range of this car is reportedly to be like 600 kilometers. No way, never going to get 600 kilometers out of this car. I think you'd be lucky to get maybe 450. And the question is, as the battery degrades, is that going to become 400? And it's going to get to the point where you can't make distances without having to constantly think about charging the car? Apparently not, and I'm pretty confident that Tesla knows what it's talking about. It's not just bullshitting us when it comes to battery life. I would think that if you're going to keep an electric vehicle for like 10 years or something like that, that's something to be concerned about, because batteries will degrade, and if the range gets shorter and shorter, by the time you get to the 8th or 9th year, you'll find that there's going to be significant trouble keeping your car with enough juice in it to get you where you want to be, that you used to be able to go without having to charge. But anyway, I don't tend to keep my cars for that long, so I don't think that's going to be an issue for me. I am looking forward to the day where the quoted range is like 1,000, because then I think you'd have no trouble, because even if it degrades 20%, you're still 800 kilometers range, and you've given the buffer of like bullshit, and you get down to 600. I think 600 is a pretty good amount of distance that you can drive without having to charge the car, because it makes it more convenient when you go on vacation and go for road trips and stuff like that. But right now, as I said, don't get me wrong, I love this car. It is super zippy, super fast, and it goes super well. There are just a number of things which, one is, can't be helped. Stuff like low profile, scraping of the curb, there's not much you can do about that. But there are things that I would just wish that Tesla thought about a little bit more. Their software upgrades do address a lot of software issues, but they're obviously physical things that aren't going to be fixable on this car. Like the latest versions already have like the iPad TV screens in the back for the kiddos to keep them entertained, and that's a cool thing. But there are things that they could improve. Like I said, with the remote front, I don't know how difficult that is to set up. Stuff like that, which would make things more convenient. The ability to put a spare wheel somewhere would be something that I think a lot of people would like and would be reassured, especially when we go on road trips. However, I think there is a knack to how you can jack up a battery powered car, and you can't just jack them in any random spot because you can damage the battery. So I guess that could be one reason why they didn't do it, and two is to save space. But that's something that I wish wasn't an issue, because it freaks me out when I have a flat tire, and I don't like that experience whatsoever. But all in all, I'm really happy with the fact that Tesla regularly updates its software and adds new features to this car. If you need a higher clearance, if you need a bigger space, you get a Model Y, and it gets rid of the height problem and the storage problem, but it does reduce your speed or ability to take Lamborghinis off the traffic light, but I don't think that's a big deal for most people. And it does reduce range a bit, because I don't think the Model Y has a gooder range as a Model 3 long range. If I was in the market for an EV, right at this minute, I still think Tesla leads the pack, because it does give you a relatively longer range than most cars. It's got better tech in terms of its autopilot and self-driving capabilities, but the other cars are starting to catch up. And if Tesla doesn't up its game, people start to get other cars. A lot of people are okay with ranges of 400 kilometers because all they do is drive around the city, and it's not such an issue for them. That's it for today. I just want to go really quickly through the features of this car and what I didn't like about this car. There are a few things that I know can be improved, but it is overall a really good car. And if you're after an electric vehicle in 2024, right at this minute, I think that Tesla in general would be the one that I would get. But everyone has different uses, everyone has different use scenarios, and everyone has different requirements. But this would be the car that I would get, because it's just at the moment still so far ahead of the other cars, because it's just basically been around longer. There's been more tried and tested features. There have been enough users who have given enough feedback, so Tesla knows what they need to improve. Price wise, they're all pretty comparable now. You can't complain that car prices go up and down because that's the nature of things. But the good thing is, in general, you don't have to go get petrol, which was the bane of my life. But when you go on road trips, that's something to think about. So thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time in the video. Leave a comment if you have anything to ask in terms of shopping for an EV. Give me a like if you like this video, and if you like my stuff, remember to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time in another video. Bye.